Welcome to another episode of the GunBlog VarietyCast with your hosts, Sean Sorrentino and Aaron Paulette.
Welcome to episode 142 of the GunBlog VarietyCast, a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. How are you doing, Aaron?
Well, I'm doing fine, Sean, other than a bit of a sore throat because I was doing my primal scream at Atlanta traffic.
Oh, yes. Speaking of which, here we are at the NRA Annual Convention for 2017, and you might notice a slight difference in how the audio sounds. And that's because we're sitting in the middle of the media room, the quiet side of the media room, and it's not just you and me, Aaron. Finally, we have a group of us together. We're going to try this out and see how it works. We have, all the way from someplace in Tennessee, an undisclosed location, co-host emeritus, Adam. How are you doing, Adam?
I am so tired.
You know, I was going to throw something at you if you didn't say that.
Well, the good news is I am actually so tired.
I know.
I'm just always tired all the time. Maybe I have, like, lupus or
It's never
something.
lupus.
It's never lupus?
It's never lupus. Going around the table, we have Weird Beard.
Hello, hello.
Oh, come on, give us a hello, Internet.
Hello, Internet.
Now we've got age before beauty out of the way. Let's get straight to the beauty. Is Tiffany Johnson. Look at that smile. Could she get any cuter with that smile?
That's nice of you to say, Sean. Thank you.
Oh, I've watched you get stopped by so many people. Hey, how's it going? Talking to you. Now, how's the show been for you so far?
It has been very different from SHOT. This is my first NRAAM, and earlier this year was my first SHOT, so there's been a lot of comparison between the two. And so far, I'm really enjoying this. I've learned some things, had some, I guess, revelations. Some expected, some not so much, so it's been interesting.
So what we thought we'd do is just talk about some of the stuff that we saw that was cool. So hopefully some of you people have written anything down in the show notes, anything at all. Now, we do have Beth at the show somewhere, and hopefully, if we get really lucky, Beth will actually show up and talk, but we don't know, because we're going to get kicked out of this room in something like an hour. So, yeah, we're going to be, like, packing furiously in probably the hallway when they tell us to get the hell out. Weird, why don't you start us off? What'd you see today?
Let's see. Well, actually, the big one there was the Wilson Combat. They've got the EDC-9X, which is, Wilson Combat, we know they make high-end 1911s, and this time it's kind of a 1911-ish. It is double stack, 15+1. Sean and I debating, is it a commander size? Is it almost a commander size? It's got a 4-inch barrel. I don't know exactly how tall the height is. 1911 people are very fanatical about the size of their guns and what you call them. But it's got a bunch of stuff. It's still got like a 1911 trigger. It's got an overall 1911 feel to it, but it's still got the swing link barrel, but the barrel locks up on the ejection hood. It's got some abbreviated frame rails for added reliability, and it's just designed to be just a nice little carry gun.
Okay, I'd like to point out that this is GunBlog VarietyCast and not Handgun Radio, so that was a level of geek that went right past me. I got on that gun, and I got to play with it, and I've been thinking for a long time it's like the perfect gun for my father. It's a 9mm double stack, 15 round, but it's still got that 1911 for him. So if I ever win the lottery, I'll have to buy him something.
Yeah, and Sean was beside me as I was collecting information for Handgun Radio, and he's just like, what?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So, Aaron, if you had to pick the highlight of the event, what was the highlight of the event for you? And you can say, me cooking you breakfast every morning, that's okay.
Well, that was nice, although breakfast was late today.
Well, I slept in.
Somebody else was tired.
I think everybody is tired.
Well, I had a couple of highlights, but the one that I know you're referring to is when I was interviewed by Cam Edwards for Cam & Company. And unlike last year when I just called in and I was shy and had them put up a Operation Blazing Sword picture, I actually dressed up nicely and I showed my face on camera. There was more than a little bit of nervousness because, well, first of all, I know that I can do well in an interview. I've done enough of them, but I'm very conscious of the camera, and I know that it's looking at me. It's like, do I look at Cam? Do I look at the camera? How do I do this? Plus, there's that whole do I look acceptable? And then finally, there's always a thing in the back of my head that's saying, whatever you do, don't say the F word. But yeah, I had a good time. I had some friends watching. You weren't watching.
No, I was in here dealing with stuff.
Yeah,
So.
dealing with stuff, sure. But I was told that I gave a great interview and that I looked very natural, and I had a friend take a picture of it, and we're going to post that in the show notes.
Cool.
And it's a really sort of unguarded moment where Cam and I are standing next to each other, and we're both laughing, and we're just chilling like buds.
So is this Cam Edwards? Is he like a big deal somewhere?
I think I may have heard the name before. I'm not real sure.
I'm fond of his first album.
Okay. Well, all right, cool. So if you know anything about Cam Edwards, that's great. Tiffany,
Yes.
why don't you tell me what struck you the most about the show?
So, well, first of all, I guess I'll just jump right in and say, hey, I was anxious to see how many black people would be here. There were more than I expected.
There were black people here?
I counted on 2 hands instead of 1, so that's good. I didn't expect to see more than 2 or 3, but I think I'm up to 9 now, including the 4 women who were at the women's breakfast this morning. 4 black women who were at the women's breakfast. So that was cool. I went to the annual meeting, and that was very impressive. For the most part, well organized. Lots of people there. Is a huge event. The things that stuck out to me were, first of all, I want to give a shout out to the young woman who sang the national anthem, because she had a beautiful voice, lovely voice. She's clearly got bigger, hairier balls than I'll ever have, because I couldn't do that in front of that big group of people.
You and me both.
But apparently nerves got the best of her, because she botched the words of the national anthem. So I'm sure she probably felt horrible about that. So I just want to say kudos to her for even doing that. And she had a great voice. So I hope she's on the up and up this morning. Then I went to the women's breakfast this morning, and like I said, the most positive thing is that the women's breakfast was probably the most diverse single crowd I've seen at this entire convention. So that was interesting. Wasn't a huge fan of some of the stuff I heard at the women's breakfast, but maybe that's for another episode.
Yeah, give that some thought. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. So what I thought was funny was Tony Simon from Simon Says Train and the diversity shoot. He and I, and was that Adam or was that Weird?
That was me.
It was Weird, yeah. He and I and Weird were wandering around the floor, and some guy's looking at his Instagram feed, and he looks at Tony, and he looks at his Instagram feed, and he looks at Tony. He's like, "Do I know you from somewhere? Is this you?" He'd been following him on Instagram, and he runs into him on the floor, and it was like Weird and I are like, "Okay, this is where the white dudes step back." And I tell you what, it was a lot of fun wandering around the floor with Tony. He was that dude's a hoot.
It was pretty trippy because the guy was right behind us, so he had to have looked at his Instagram picture and looked to his left and looked to his right and saw what we were standing in front of when the picture was taken.
Yeah, I think it was right after he took a picture at the Henry booth, so the Henry rifles. So Adam, what about you? What did you see that you thought was interesting, something worthy of note?
Well, so we have another person who's not actually here, a Wellowant, who used to be a frequent caller on the Vicious Circle. So he and I were walking around yesterday, and he's like, man, there are suppressors everywhere. There are suppressors in booths that have absolutely nothing to do with suppressors, which I thought was really cool. So I have only seen probably about half the show now. I went to the leadership forum yesterday, whatever day that was.
That would have been Friday.
Friday. I am so tired. Did I mention that?
We have absolutely lost track. It's Sunday. We're going to get kicked out of here in about an hour, out of the media room. But yeah, you went to the leadership forum on Friday. We had that protest on Saturday.
Oh yeah, the protest.
And you've seen, if you've seen half, you've seen probably half again as much as I have.
Yeah, it's. I have walked a lot, so my phone has notified me every day that I've set a new step record on my phone that I've had for 4 years. So yeah,
Since Nashville.
Yeah, I'm walking 20, 30,000 steps a day as opposed to the 6,000 that I do in my regular sedentary lifestyle. So see how much weight I lost.
Oh, well, we've at least had decent food. We did have something interesting. At least I thought it was very interesting. We had actual listeners say, hey, I gotta meet you guys. So wanted to say hi to Nathan and Christy. Thanks a lot for coming and seeing us today. It was pretty cool to meet somebody. And since they stopped by and said hi, well, they get one of those little stickers that nobody gets unless like they donated money or do something cool.
And they get a personal shout out on the show.
Well, if we're going to be doing
a-
shout outs, I want to give a shout out to my girl, Amy Pfaff, who brought me shots of rum chata the other day. Thank you, Amy. They were delicious.
Okay, I'm totally editing that out because she didn't bring me any rum shots. Kind of crap is that? Slaving away, cooking over a hot stove.
I was the one cooking over the hot stove.
Well, that's true. I was just frying eggs.
In the evening.
So then we did also have a kind of a complaint about the show. I got an email from SPQR, and SPQR says, you know what, Sean, you have not said anything at all about Michelle Dockery in like years. Now, I have to clarify that Michelle Dockery was the blog girlfriend. She was the official blog girlfriend, and I don't blog much anymore. I'm podcasting. The official podcast girlfriend is Trixie Dixon, Girl Detective from Blackjack Justice. So, and I haven't really talked about her either, but that show ended. In any case, the Michelle Dockery update is, unfortunately, the really serious relationship that she had. I'm like, it was apparently like, wow, really tight. Dude died of cancer Christmas 2015. So, I mean, there's nothing really good to say about that. So moving along, there is a very strong possibility that there will be a Downton Abbey movie, which will probably only be of interest to me and Adam's wife.
Yeah, she'll be all over that.
And my wife.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. I didn't know that. Downton Abbey movie. I'm all for that. And let's see.
Which one is Abby in that show?
I don't think there is one. Let's see.
I say that to my wife every time she watches the show. No, which one is that as Abby?
And is it Abby Cadabby? Oh, no, wait, that's Sesame Street.
No, it's Abby from NCIS.
Abby
Ooh,
Prince, yes.
well, I'd watch that.
And then the other thing is that she stars in a TV show called Good Behavior, but I don't have cable, so I don't get to see it. At some point, it'll end up on Netflix, and I'll watch it. Adam, since you're here, I guess we probably should revive that little segment, the tactical dogs. So
Tactical Dog and Fitness Report.
the tactical dog and fitness report. That's what it's called, Adam. So we've already had a little bit of fitness. You've set 30,000 steps a day
Oh my
or some
gosh,
crazy
yeah,
stuff like that.
just something, nuts.
So how is tactical dog?
Tactical Dog is 6.5 years old. She still thinks that she's a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
She will run around like a crazy person all the time. She's actually right this very moment. I think she's at the vet for her annual rabies shot and all that good stuff.
Getting her oil changed?
Getting her oil changed, getting her hair and nails did, all that stuff. So yeah, she's doing pretty good. So she's starting to go a little gray. So
Well, that's a natural tendency for both Dutch Shepherds and for your dog, because that's just the way the fur is. Like Dutch Shepherds, because they're brindle, that means there's a lot of gray in there already. It's just the other stuff. When it gets short, you can see the gray.
Yeah.
So guess what? Oh, before we let's finish the tactical dog and fitness report, and then we'll make our introductions. I did a little look. 5,548.2 dog walking miles. And that is the equivalent of me walking from my house to Adam's house in Nashville, then from Adam's house to the Huntington Beach Pier in Huntington Beach, California, across the Golden Gate Bridge to the Space Needle, then to Barron's house in Seattle, and then from his house basically to the edge of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So, hi, Sarah. So, having dispensed with the silliness, we have joining us now, who is unfortunately going to have to handhold her mic because we can't come up with enough stands, Beth Alcazar. Beth, how are you doing?
I'm hot and sweaty. That is typical in Atlanta, but having a great time.
Awesome. You just came back from the women's breakfast?
Had the women's breakfast, then got stopped by about 6 different people on the way here. So
Right. You have way more fans than I do.
I don't know they were fans necessarily, but I still got stopped.
Well, they just didn't like you at all?
Exactly. They were like, you, get out. No,
They were
always
panhandling?
They always think Cameron Diaz is here. And it's like, I have to explain this again.
Oh my God, that was just going through my head.
See?
now that you mention it,
Yeah, I usually count up the number of times I hear that on every trip. And this time I think it's real low. It's about 9 or 10.
Right. I never get that.
Me either.
Right. I tend to get the Carradine one, not the good one, not the Kung Fu one. David?
Kung Fu: The Legend Continues.
Oh.
He was in that. Yeah.
He was? Okay.
Yeah.
I get
What? Keith
David
Carradine?
David Carradine.
David Carradine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His lesser known
I
second
get,
cousin.
hey, you look like this famous rapper in India.
You do kind of.
I've gotten that before. I'm like, really? Okay. Yeah, I'm big in India.
Great.
Huge.
So
Still
Beth,
could be worse.
So Beth, we already went around and asked everybody else what they thought was the thing that they saw. What struck you most about anything interesting? Or is it all the same crap for you at this point? You're like,
Yeah.
whatever.
It's a lot of the same old, same old. I think one of the things that maybe struck me is the absence of some things. There were a lot of booths that did not bring a lot of their women's products.
Really?
And when I asked about them, they said, oh, yeah, our sales rep is wearing it, or the mannequin is wearing it. Okay, and where can I buy them? Oh, online. So you didn't bring any of it? No. Okay, so that was a little disappointing. Maybe they think that the NRA is not catering to females, perhaps?
Do you think maybe?
Maybe.
Maybe?
So other than that, it was like, oh, look, the Taurus spectrum. Ooh, colors, rainbows.
And see, I actually think colored guns might be a good thing, because if somebody ever says, hey, that guy pulled a gun on me, and I just I would like to be able to tell the cop, well, ask him what color the gun was. And if he says anything other than purple, he's lying.
There you go.
Wouldn't that be perfect? That'd be awesome. It'd be
could
like
work.
and they'd be like, it was a great big black gun. No, it was purple, you jackass.
Yeah, didn't that recently happen to?
So that is actually a story from somewhere. I think it was red or something, but mine, of course, would be purple.
Yeah, well, it was he pulled out a giant silver revolver, and the guy
that was
yes,
Paul Lathrop,
yes, Paul,
yeah.
and he actually had a Glock 17.
Right.
Oh.
So for me, the thing, and it was probably what I was coming in here to see anyway, was the SIG P320 X5. Now, the first P320 X5 I ever saw in the wild, ever picked up, ever played with, was the Gray Guns competition triggered equipped X5. So, I mean, that kind of set the standard. Even the regular X5 is nice, but after Gray Guns puts like $300 worth of trigger work into it, it's so nice. And I can't shoot it in IDPA. What kind of crap is that? I know. I'm going to have to like quit IDPA and shoot USPSA just so I can use this gun. Really irritating.
All the rules.
So we did get to see a number of air guns, starting with the Girardoni,
Giradoni, I believe.
Giradoni, the WAP gun. I can say that.
Is that the sound it makes when it shoots?
Yep, it goes wop,
Yeah,
wop,
we'll
wop.
go with that.
It goes wop, wop, wop. Yeah. I have a family who does a tire store. It's called Dago Tires because they go round and round until they go flat, and then they go wop, wop, wop. Come on, I got Italian jokes for days. All right, but the Girardoni rifle, which was, fascinating, and then they told me it was pumped up to 850 PSI or some crazy number like that. I'm like, do you people have any freaking clue what 850 PSI means, right? I do this with people sometimes when I'm talking about air compressors. If you took an air compressor, right, and you cut it up and you stretched it out and saw how many square inches, it's about the size of a door, right? So take your door and measure it, multiply the length times the width, and that's how many square inches. Now multiply that times 100 pounds on every square inch. How many tons is that? Okay, now you got this little bottle with 850 PSI that was built for the Lewis and Clark expedition. So it was like, did it predate the people who built it? Did it predate the Second Amendment? Isn't that true? Is something, or is it very, very close?
It's very close.
Right. We're not talking the best metallurgy in the world. And they I'm just going to stick this next to my face. And the thing was still in one piece, but I'd like to know if any of them failed in operation.
I believe they did, because they were originally taken. Lewis and Clark brought it along for their expedition just because it was probably a whole lot easier than trying to bring lots of black powder for hunting animals and scaring off natives, is all the stories I've read about it. But also they had it as it was essentially a sniper's rifle. It was a marksman's rifle.
Yeah, you could hit targets at 200 yards with it. With a 50 caliber ball or something like that?
The complaints were the bottles were prone to failure. Another one is it's got a little magazine tube in it, but that's gravity fed. So to chamber it, the gun needed to be pointed completely vertical. And if you're a marksman laying prone, you're kind of raising a big flag. Here I am.
Well, see, yeah, you could. We should probably do video of gun fu with that thing. You boom, and then you raise it straight up and you roll, tactical roll, and then now you're on the other side of the tree. Bah, right. It'd be pretty cool. I thought it was funny. All right, never mind.
Some kind of fancy ukimi,
Yeah, that we do. Right. And then we went to the modern version of this thing. Aaron, you saw this. I don't know who else happened to see it, but we got to take a look at the Air Force Air Guns booth and saw them shoot the Texan SS. 3,500 PSI, which I'm okay with now because of modern metallurgy and stuff and the testing that these things go through. It was chucking a 45 caliber 350 grain ball at about 900 or 800 feet per second. It was 400 foot-pounds of energy out of this thing. It's for hunting deer and hogs.
Well, I think they had to regulate it downward because they were shooting indoors.
I know. That's exactly what he said. It hit the backstop so freaking hard that both of us looked at each other like, that's the suppressed version? And then we both went, oh, wait, no, that was just the backstop. They do say the unsuppressed version is good for hunting out to 200 yards, and it is kind of about like shooting a 45 caliber pistol. And it's a freaking air gun. And I want one so bad. So we've been talking to them. There is a slight possibility that they will get one of them into my hands. And I'm hoping they do it in time for me to like shoot a deer at the end of this year. Because I think sitting in a tree stand and whacking a deer with an air rifle, I would totally do this. If I can convince a deer to walk in front of me.
Kid, you'll shoot your eye out.
I probably would. So Aaron, what else? What else you got going on?
Well, I want to tell a short but entertaining story about what happened when I first came to the NRA in order to get my credentials. Now, in previous years, I just go up, I say my name, I present my card, they look it up, they'll check the URL just to make sure I'm a friendly, and they've given me my credentials, no problem. This year, and remember, I was getting ready to go on cam, so I was dressed all nice. And this is the first convention where I have been on the floor presenting female. And so I get there, and I check in with this lovely lady named Jackie. And she checks me in, and then she says, we need to see some identification. And I go, okay, there's going to be a bit of a problem here. And she's looking up at me like, what problem could this possibly be? And I don't want to make a big scene. I don't want to embarrass her. I don't want to embarrass me. So I kind of look to the side, and I mostly mouth it, but a little bit of a stage whisper. I go, I'm trans. And her eyes go big because she doesn't know what to do because she's embarrassed on my behalf. She doesn't want to make a big stink. And I explained to her, it's like, I can give you identification, that's not the problem, but it will not match this face and it will not match this name. Now, what I can do is, if you like, I could call, Cam Edwards or his producer or maybe Lars Dalcide, and they can come in and vouch for me. But if this is a problem, I don't know what to do. And she was so sympathetic and helpful, and she's going, okay, I need to check with my supervisor. And she really didn't want to embarrass me or put me out or whatever. And so she went and talked to her boss, Jason, and she's explaining, and I don't really hear what's going on. They're just having this hushed discussion a few feet away, and they're energetic with some hand movements, and I'm starting to text Cam going, can you come to the press room and vouch for me? And so she and her supervisor come over, and he looks at the computer, and he goes, oh, GunBlog VarietyCast. She's with Sean. I know Sean. He brought me booze. Yeah, everything's good.
Actually, what happened was he'd been so nice, like answering all the dumb questions, and he and his staff have treated us like we were freaking CNN. Well, actually, probably better than CNN, given CNN's reputation. But I felt like we were treated really well. So I have a connection. I've said something about this particular vodka that I have a connection with their factory, and I bought a bottle of it and I brought it down to give it to him. Well, I'm checking in and I'm like, who's Jason? And they point at this guy there, and I'm like, I need to talk to him. He comes over, he's like, yeah, what can I do? Is there something wrong? I'm like, yeah, this is from the GunBlog VarietyCast. Thanks for all you've done for us. And he's like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have gotten in so easily without the booze, but you definitely greased the wheels. And so in conclusion, after I got all checked in, because I worked in retail and I know how important it is to talk up an employee to their boss. And so I actually got Jason, and Jackie was just walking up. It's like, yeah, come on over here. And she doesn't know. She's probably horrified. And I said, I just want to make plain to you just how nice and considerate this lady was, because it was definitely an awkward and unusual situation, and she handled it with grace. She didn't want to embarrass me. I could see that she went that extra mile, and so I am telling you, her boss, that she did an excellent job, and she deserves that recognition. And she just beamed all over the place, and it was fantastic. So NRA, you did a great job in hiring her, and I really like the way I don't know if this is just her thing or if you are teaching sensitivity, but whatever you're doing, you could learn a lesson from her. Keep it up.
Yeah, I felt that the press office was really nice. I think Jason's in charge. I can't really tell. He's in charge here, but I don't know how much in charge of like media relations he is. But every single person that he's got working for him here has been really super nice.
Oh, absolutely.
So Beth, what else? What else did you notice? What did you do? Did you do anything here, or did you just sort of wander around?
Well, we were kind of homeless this year, so it was a little bit of a strange feeling. We had a lot of the same duties, a lot of the same things that we needed to do and see, but then we had no home base as far as the organization's concerned. So I'm glad I had this as a home base, and I could actually get in, as a member of this organization. Otherwise, I felt kind of like I had a big black spot on me or something.
Well, that was one of the things that Jason did for us. Is I'm like, oh, Jason, we didn't know she was going to make it. She's going to make it. Can she have the badge? And he's like, oh yeah, sure, just have her fill out, we're cool.
And it happened almost instantaneously.
Oh yeah, it was like I could have been standing next to him and him printing it out and handing it to me. It was that fast.
And I didn't bring any booze.
I think that's the lesson here. Just bring some complimentary booze
Here.
for the media room manager.
The booze happened afterwards. Now, if Jason is the media room manager next year, we're probably gonna have our own room.
Oh, the sweet.
In this case, in the next case though, it's you need to pick up a bottle of the rum that you talked about. Or Weird, there was some other booze that you were talking about. Maybe we should all bring him some booze and they can have a big party after we leave. So what about you, Adam? What do you got for us?
I'm so tired.
That's it.
That's pretty much anything anybody remembers about me from being on the podcast. No, so I picked up a couple of things. So we were walking by the C Products booth, and they are a magazine manufacturer. And I said to Owellawent, oh, look, a unicorn, because they had a couple of 7.62x39 AR mags. And it turns out that they had boxes and boxes of them. So I bought a couple of those because you can't find them anywhere.
Wonder why.
I built a 7.5-inch AR pistol in 7.62x39 because I want to get banned from every indoor range in Nashville. I'm going to put a muzzle brake on it, just to add that.
You need to put a Loudner.
Yeah. I don't think they make it anymore. I actually tried to find one. I don't think they make it.
Like a flamethrower.
Yeah.
You just a little balloon of gasoline at the end, so the thing just.
There you go. Also set the target on fire from 15 yards. Yeah.
I love incendiary anything.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Chicks dig it.
So I got that, and then I ended up buying a CERT pistol. I bought the Glock red on red version, which is the cheap one. I'm planning on building my own sort of virtual simulator in my garage. That was another thing from the show. There was like 6 different companies now that have these like virtual simulators, and I think the cheap one was like $2,900 that I found. Most of them were between $6,000 and $30,000.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
but not really
for home use. But my plan coming down here was to get a CERT pistol because they're not cheap, and I figured that I could probably get one for a lot cheaper down here. So my 5-year-old Ben told his mom, my wife, that Daddy is going to Atlanta to have a play date with Sean. Right? And then, so Eddie Eagle is set up right outside the media room. And so I texted a picture to my wife of the Eddie Eagle, and he apparently said, oh, good, he's learning about guns while he's there.
So how does your son remember me?
So you came to Nashville 2 years ago when he was 3, and he talks about once a month about Mr. Sean who made us breakfast. And it's really funny.
Well,
so you made quite the impression.
Cool. And you should have sent him a picture of breakfast and said, Mr. Sean made me breakfast, and you didn't get any. That's too bad. And you'll never be able to go to a play date without him again.
Just before we get off Adam's segment, I do want to point out how cool it is that we live in an era where you can go to a convention and buy a laser pistol.
Yes, I have a laser gun now. I have a blaster. It's pretty awesome.
Who made that?
CERT.
CERT.
So it's a CERT pistol. It's next level
training.
Next level training.
That's correct. Yep.
Can I say GunBlog VarietyCast in the 21st century?
Dun.
Now, we all stayed together, well, except for you, Beth. You decided Beth, who's going to bang the table.
Except Beth, who bangs tables.
Oh, we still got that in the can.
Don't you dare cut that, Sean.
Okay, so, and on that note, but we all stayed except for Beth, at the GunBlog VarietyCast house. And the only reason we were able to do that is at the beginning of the year, or towards the end of the year, really, of last year, we had a sponsor sign on for a full 6 months. So I was able to take that money, plus a little money on the credit card, and plow that into buying the house and then saying, hey, everybody send me $250 when you get it. So...
Well, I don't have it printed in front of me, but let's see if I can do it from memory. Special thanks to Lucky Gunner and Remington for their sponsorship of the GunBlog VarietyCast. From golden sabers to range rounds, you can get quality ammo that ships fast at luckygunner.com.
LuckyGunner.com. Thank you guys very much. Without that, we would be in a hotel or just sitting at home watching people's Instagram feeds. Except for you, Beth, of course, because you're way too important for that.
And of course, Lucky Gunner is how Sean and I met the first time.
Right, it is, in fact. So thanks a lot, guys. And Andrew, thank you very much. What do you got for me, Weird?
Can we talk about the protest?
We can talk about the
I want to talk about the
Let's
protest.
talk about the protest.
I want to hear more about the protest.
Oh, yeah.
Saw pictures.
So
You got trophies.
we'll just go ahead and say that there were between 100 and 200 people there. It was much larger than I was expecting.
Park police said it was 70 to 100.
So
Does that include the homeless people?
that probably does include the
The
homeless people.
identifiable homeless people, probably not.
So late breaking news. This happened actually since we sat down. Miguel has pointed out, Miguel from GunFreeZone.net, who's also a contributor here.
GunFreeZone.net.
He has pointed out that Shannon Watts has now gone from, over 200 people to over 300 people to now she is claiming over 400 people showed up.
Oh, good for
Yeah,
her.
no,
I might
not
get
even with all the homeless people that they were handing out shirts to.
Yep, not even including the driver of the truck that kept circling with the you're not a good guy with a gun, you're the Betsy Riot idiot.
Yeah, Betsy Riot.
By the
those
way,
guys.
I saw that truck as we were leaving, and I did a big wave and smiled to it, and the dude just was driving, looking straight ahead. I don't think that he was Betsy Riot. I think he was just,
Oh, no.
here's some money,
They
drive
just-
this truck.
They just hired him to drive the truck around.
Don't look at the back because you probably will be embarrassed driving this truck.
Seriously. So Gale Pepin came to us and, actually, no, we were just talking with Gale. She didn't come to us. Gale doesn't come to us. We go and bow to her and say, oh, Gale, would you let us be anywhere near you? And she's like, well, I guess. I don't have anybody cool. So in any case, we were chatting with Gale, and Gale says, well, I'm going to go to this protest. And Adam's like, I'm going to go to this protest. And Weird's like, I'm going to go to the protest too. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll go too, sure. So the four of us roll up, and then Adam misappears. I'm like, where the hell did Adam go? And I get this text message, and there's this picture of Adam wearing a Mom's Demand shirt. And he's like, look behind you. And I turn around, and there's Adam walking around holding a sign that says, stand up to the NRA, wearing a bright red
I
Mom's
literally
Demand
didn't
shirt.
recognize you. I was looking right at you and going, you know what? That hippie over there looks just like Adam.
Yeah. So what happened was, so we're all standing there and we're kind of off on the periphery, and I'm like, you know what? We should probably flank them. Right. So I'm going to go around to the other side. And so they'll be on this side and I'll be on that side. And then that way, if there's any kind of incident where, so Sean and Weird used to be more famous than they are, and used to get picked out. And so I'm like, all right, so if there's any kind of incident, we're split up. We're highly available on our video camera.
Sean and I used to be more famous for our faces. Now we're more famous for our voices.
Yes. So I'm walking around there and I find myself like standing or walking past a couple of people who are registering folks for the protest. And I'm like, okay. So I just go up and I'm like, oh yeah, sure. I'm here. Yeah. Let me get a shirt. And they're like, okay, well, just register. I'm like, all right. Put in an alias and all that stuff. And then, just put the shirt on and just walk out into the field.
Were they pretty aggressive about that? Because I know I actually had to turn down or say I already read. I can't remember what I said, but I was like, no, thanks, I'm good. And I actually saw it. There was this young couple. I think they were just going for a morning stroll through the park, and they literally like, would you like to sign up for this? And they're like, what is this?
Yeah, it was pretty aggressive. In fact, while I was standing there wearing the shirt, I had the same lady come up to me 3 different times asking me if I had registered yet.
Yeah, we had that happen a lot. Now, I saw you do it, and I'm thinking, maybe not. And for some reason, I can't remember what the heck it was. Sarah sent me a picture. Oh, that's what it was. She sends me a picture of purple magazines for AR-15s, and she's like, purple. And I'm like, I'm at the Moms Demand Action protest. Do you want a Moms Demand Action shirt? She's like, lol, yes, for trolling. And so I stuck the phone in my pocket. I walked over there and I registered as Aaron Palette, Aaron.
Oh, sure, you're gonna use my name, but I don't get any swag for it.
Well, you should have been there. And I sign up as Aaron Palette at gmail.com, AARON.PALLETTE. So it's totally spelled wrong and wrong gender and everything. And then made up a phone number and they give me a shirt. I'm like, can I have a shirt that's like for a friend of mine? Like she hands me a size medium and a sticker. Would you like a poster? I'm like, great. That's what I need. I need a poster to carry around. And I pulled the phone out of my pocket, and it was, well, hell no. I'm like, threw it on the ground. I took a picture of him. Too late.
So you mentioned the signs. I don't know if you guys noticed, but they were actually hand-making signs and then handing out the handmade signs.
Oh,
I did not notice that.
Yeah. So I got a couple of pictures of that where they were behind the tables making the signs, and then later you could see other people had the signs.
Arts and crafts time at the project.
Yeah, it was. It was
the
art
protest. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty great. Do we want to talk about the 6 bodyguards?
Well, you just did, so.
So Shannon Watts was there, and there were at least 6 bodyguards that we could make. And then plus the 4 uniform officers that were there, providing security. And it was, you're a mile and a half away from the NRA convention, and
yeah.
I hate guns, but here are all these guys with guns that are going to protect me.
One of the guards was carrying, I think it's called a Versa carry. What's the thing? It's just a clip that clips to your Glock, and you shove the whole thing in your waistband.
Yeah, that's the Versa carry. I'm not sure if that's exactly what he had, but he looked like the least real experienced of the 6.
Yeah, there were a few that really knew what they seemed to know what they were doing. They were doing that. I guess at this point, they've convinced her not to stop and talk to people outside the little security zone, because they just blew through. And it was pretty clear their security, if we'd have taken a step, their security would have taken us down, because you were made pretty easily.
Yeah, I got the side eye from at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
So they recognized, I'm pretty sure, that even though I was wearing that shirt, that I did not belong there.
Right. And then Gale and I were sitting, we were finally just tired of listening to the blather, and oh my goodness, some of the stuff that was said. Gale and I are sitting on a telephone pole stand or light pole stand, and this lady comes up to Gale and says, I know you. And we're like, Gale Pepin, of all people to get made at an anti-gun rally as a pro-gun infiltrator, Gale Pepin? Seriously? She's like, I saw you at some of these other events in Oak Park. And Gale's like, well, I am from Chicago, but I haven't lived there in a long time. I'm from Florida. She's like, oh, no, I'm at Oak Park. There's an Oak Park down here or something. I don't know. And it was somebody, she thought she was another left-wing protester, protest person that goes to protests all the time.
So Gale's doppelganger is a left-wing protester?
Apparently. She goes to a lot of protests here in the Atlanta area. But yeah, both of us panicked. We're like, oh my God. She's like, it was just hilarious. Once we figured out what was going on, we ended up walking back and walked past the Moms Demand, all having a smoke break. And I was like, do I really want to go up to him and say, do you realize that smoking kills more people than guns? But I'm like, you know what? I just don't feel like being confrontational in the street.
Yeah, I had the same thought with the lady that passed me wearing a Planned Parenthood shirt at the rally. Like, really, you want to save children, do you?
I got another good one. Is they had what is his name? Congressman John Lewis was there. I went, oh, cool. Even bigger name than Shannon Watts. And he was in there going, those gun people, they're out there. They're spying on us. And I looked over at Adam and I'm like,
yeah,
he's got us dead to rights there.
So there were probably, I counted 4, there were probably more like 10 other people that were doing the same thing that we were doing.
Oh, the guy who was there with the multicam backpack.
Yeah.
So totally not blending in.
Yeah, that guy, dude, don't do that again. That was so terribly obvious.
Right. I mean, if you're going to do that, at least come in wearing a drop leg holster, open carrying a freaking XD40 subcompact. I mean, if you're going to derp it good.
Yeah.
Maybe if you got one of those really cool holsters that we looked at.
Oh, the Phalanx?
Oh,
yeah.
Phalanx.
Yeah,
that thing.
If you can get an XD40 subcompact and put it in a Phalanx holster, open carry that, man. You're going to derp it good. So we got back from that. That took up a lot of our day. Aaron, what else did you see?
Well, I I actually thought you were going to go to Tiffany. That's why you caught me by surprise.
You know what?
here.
Let me go to Tiffany because
Please
Tiffany's
do.
over there trying to fall asleep. And
Oh,
I got to
yeah.
keep her awake. Poor Tiffany has been just worked for the last. Did you finally get any sleep at all while you came here? Because we put you in a corner where nobody would bother you, so you could actually get some sleep for once in your life.
Yeah, I did get some sleep, although I hadn't intended to. The goal was to try and catch up on work, and my body was just like, haha, cute plan. And that, I was just knocked out in my clothes before I had even gotten started good on the briefs that I needed to write. But I guess it was necessary. I do feel a little more rested today, so.
Well, on the plus side, we all found out what a torch cut windbrace was.
We did, indeed.
So tell us some of the things that you saw or something that thought was interesting you may have learned or saw or equipment, whatever's interesting to you.
Well, like I said, I went to the annual meeting, and so I have to give another shout out to a sadly nameless person who deserves to be named, but I don't have his name, so I can't give it. But one of the things that is apparently tradition at the annual meeting is to recognize the youngest and the oldest life member in attendance. And the youngest life member was was born like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, literally every year it's a toddler.
Right. The oldest member was a gentleman born in the 20s, and he unexpectedly sort of helped himself to the microphone.
Well, when you're old, you can tell you stop.
Nobody can say, hey, you're not supposed to make a speech, but he did that. And so one of the first things he said was, we need more support from women and minorities. The NRA does. And I was so absolutely thrilled to hear him say that. And I kind of looked around, and the room, I think, didn't expect it. There was an awkwardness for about 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. And then the murmur of applause kind of built gradually as folks decided that was an okay thing to say. It was weird. Of course, me, I was like, yeah, good on that guy. So there was that. Then there was another odd moment at the... that wasn't an odd moment. This was an odd moment. One of the motions that was raised was for the NRA to start requiring at its competitions, classes, or anything where gender is specified, that you have to stick to the gender of your birth, quote unquote. Someone put that motion out there, and I was afraid that the whole meeting was going to devolve into a political pissing match or whatever, but someone, I guess cooler minds prevailed. I think it was premature, and somebody made a counter motion and say, hey, we need to send that over to legal and get that checked out and make sure everything's kosher. I hope it never comes up again, because I don't know what gender has to do with guns, and I wish the NRA would stick to the Second Amendment and get rid of the social stuff. But luckily, that second motion passed, and so the thing was sort of tabled. And I hope it never comes up again.
Okay. So you also went to the women's breakfast. So we have two people who went to the women's breakfast and didn't know the other one was there.
I know. I'm so sad that I missed you, Beth. And I was just telling Sean earlier, I have a bad habit of being in the exact same place that you're at and not seeing you, not talking to you, not knowing you're there until afterwards.
Just ask everybody if they've seen Cameron Diaz.
Right. Now that's going to be my strategy from here on out.
Or the 6 foot tall blondes. I get that a lot too.
That's how I would describe you. I always tell people, has anybody seen a 6 foot tall redhead? And they'll be like, she's over there. Because I lose my wife. I lose my wife in stores. Literally, how do you lose a 6 foot redhead? Well, I lost Tony Simon. I don't know how many
Tony
times.
Simon.
I saw that.
Tony Simon is not your car keys.
For those who've not met Tony describes himself as a 400-pound black man. He's like, how do you lose a 400-pound black man on the floor of the NRA convention? I was like, I'm calibrated for my parents. My parents were 5'4" and 5 feet tall. I search down here. If I don't see a face at this level, I can't see you.
I actually got caught following somebody else in a purple shirt. Going, I got to catch up. Sean's ahead of there. Oh, crowded. That's not Sean. Oh, I'm going to send him a text message.
Speaking of Tony Simon, this man is hilarious. And one thing I noticed here in the press room is that as sober and as professional as Beth purports to be on air, She has, not only does she have this mischievous streak, but you put her and Tony together, and it's just resonant frequency, each one amplifying the other. If they were in high school, teacher would separate them across the room or send them to the guidance counselor because they were not only cutting up, but they were just making each other worse, and it was hilarious. I hope we can get him on the program.
Yes.
Just because it's, oh my God, the places you went.
He has such a great energy, and I just feed off that, and I just can't help it. It was a blast.
and vice versa, too. So, this beautiful blonde woman and, chocolate Godzilla just...
Cameron Diaz and Chocolate Godzilla.
There's the podcast title.
That might be good.
So back at the women's
Back
breakfast.
to the women's breakfast.
Anything interesting happened at the women's breakfast? I mean, a bunch of women at the NRA convention, which sounds pretty interesting to me because we let women in.
Well, all right. So I'll say something, and maybe this is controversial. I don't know. But first of all, kudos to all of the planners of the women's breakfast. It was my first time going. Naturally, it's my first time at NRAAM. So I think it's great that there is an event like that doesn't cost $125 or whatever. There was one thing that made my flesh crawl, and
Just one?
no, there's more than one, but one made my flesh crawl more than anything else, and that was a comment that was made about women and revolvers versus semi-automatics. You may remember this, Beth. You're nodding your head affirmatively.
Oh, it's not just a nod. It's a what the... Well, we don't go there
So
on this
I
show,
think you
but
know
yeah.
what I'm about
I know.
to say. So they showed a video, and it was all about, busting stereotypes about women and firearms and why revolvers are better for women. And of course, all that's great. But one of the reasons given why semi-automatics are better for women is because, you're going to miss 70% of the time, so you should have more ammo on hand so that you have more opportunities to make your shot. And that infuriated me. And I can't, if they had left the Q&A open a little longer, I probably would have stood up, but I wasn't prepared to hear that, and I don't think I was in the
wanted
right
to
mind.
challenge that statistic so bad.
I did too. Well, even if the statistic were true, and it's not,
No.
but it is true, as Sean pointed out, it is true that your proficiency degrades with stress. I will grant that. But even if it were true, the solution to knowing your proficiency is going to fall is not to fire more shots.
Right.
Because every one of those misses is going somewhere.
Correct.
It'll go into your coffee table, it'll go into your dog, it'll go into some kid down the street. And each one of them is attached to a lawyer and a jail sentence and a huge price tag. So Beth, I'm curious to know, your reaction, but when I heard that, it was all I could do to keep from bursting out of my own skin.
I was right there with you. As soon as they said that, I said, prove that statistic. I said, and what are you talking about? This is what we're teaching. This is what we're explaining to the women that we're trying to encourage, especially in the NRA. I was absolutely floored. And the woman that got up and said, if your gun is in your purse and someone's looking for it and you don't want them to see it, you can just play the dumb girl. And I'm like,
Just
oh,
put
no, you
tampons
didn't.
in your purse. No guy wants
or
to
a
see that.
diaper.
What
You know
the
what?
heck?
Here's the idea, guys. Here's the idea. You heard it first here. I'm going to design a holster that's made out of diapers and tampons.
Yes.
Okay, now I am totally on board with the play the dumb girl thing because I play the dumb dude all the time. You would not believe how far you can get going, hey, man, I just don't really get it. How do you do this?
Yeah, but it's
what-
not a
no, no.
stereotype with dudes.
Exactly. And what's the better option when you're there and someone challenges you? You go, oh my God, I didn't know that was there. Or,
Oh,
you know what? It is my
oh,
right to
that-
have this. Who's going to protect me
Oh, I
if you take that away
misunderstood.
from me?
Absolutely.
That's the response I want to hear. And that's what I want to hear NRA saying, ladies, listen up.
I don't like the
I
NRA
misunderstood.
teaching women to play dumb.
No.
It
I misunderstood.
offended
I
me.
thought they were searching and were going to search and you didn't want them to search and you just go, I don't know. And you can just, there's a lot of ways you can play dumb. But yeah, if it's
Yeah.
they found it, I
Yeah.
didn't know that it was there. That's a
Well,
stupid
and then
thing to
the
say.
other woman who got up there and said, I don't know all that stuff was in my purse. I had all this ammo in there. I totally forgot. And I went to this place. I'm like, if we can't be responsible as gun owners and being on the board of the NRA or being in high positions in the NRA, how can we expect the rest of the membership to be responsibly armed Americans?
Absolutely.
I was floored by that. And I get really angered by stuff like that. I'm glad we weren't together. We would have instigated something like that.
Right. Well, it's interesting that the table I'm looking at, the two best trained people here, the ones who have taken the most training, the ones who are actually qualified to teach people things with the guns, are the two ladies that were at the women's breakfast. And the rest of us are a bunch of hacks, you know? Like, Erin's probably better trained than I am because she went to Mag 40. I do a couple of shooting competitions and went to a couple of one-day handgun classes. And these two clowns, they're like, "Go, come on, we're instructors. I've taken every class with a handgun that Tom Givens." So, yeah, if your stereotype is women don't know anything about guns, you need to stop. It's not going to fly here.
And just to be clear, they said 70% of the shots that women make. They specified women. They didn't say just in general.
No, they didn't specify women.
Okay.
But it was just in the context they were talking about women. They didn't say explicitly that women will miss more than men. I don't think that was the impression, but that's kind of how it came across given the context.
Okay.
Well, maybe the person speaking was a firearms trainer for New York City Police Department, and he was being charitable.
The problem was it was presented like, this is a well-known fact. All of us will miss 70% of our shots under stress. And I'm like, what just happened here? And everyone's like, yay, there's a lot of new shooters in that group. That one lady, my husband bought me a gun. I don't know if I should have it. And then everyone started to like pounce, like, ooh, I'm going to tell her what gun she should buy. I'm like, this is wrong.
Which
people.
defeats the whole purpose.
This is wrong. We don't do it this way. And they were almost like feeding that. So the energy I felt was not a new energy. It was an old energy that I'm tired of seeing.
Exactly. If we had more time, I actually went, the woman who presented that statistic or the video where that statistic was featured, I wanted to go to her and say something about it, but when I got to her, there was a line of people waiting to talk to her. So I stood there for a moment, and then it was time to come record, so I had to leave. But if I come across her again, I absolutely have to say something about that. Because the other thing is that they tested 18 firearms, and not one of them was a Glock.
In one day, too.
Right.
New shooters
in one day.
18 here's your 18
firearms.
guns. I'm going, that's overwhelming for me. Are you kidding me?
Right.
How many shots did they get on each? 1, 2? You can't tell me they put 100 rounds in every one of those guns.
Yeah, wow.
Couldn't possibly have.
So maybe we should head to some brighter spots. I got to see Mike Seeklander twice. So warrior call to Mike Seeklander, because we don't do shout outs to Mike Seeklander. He does warrior call, so whatever. In any case,
I walked by him. I was like, oh, that's Mike Seeklander.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to let him know that this thing that I carry around my ankle with all my medical gear in it, I heard on his show, and I was telling him, you did a great, I'm really glad that you talked about it. He's like, no, that was actually Rich Brown. Well, it was on his podcast. It was Rich on his podcast, not him. So apparently I can't tell their voices apart, or I can't remember what one of them says. But in any case, it was really cool to get to actually see him and say, hey, thank you for, one, for the recommendation on that, and two, thank you for the competition shooting handbook. This is the things you can practice, because otherwise you're just going to practice the things you like and not the things you have to learn. So it was pretty cool to be able to say, hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. So anybody see anybody else that they thought was aside from Cam, who apparently is a thing somewhere?
Yeah, I was privileged to meet, and I'm probably going to get the name wrong, so correct me if I am incorrect, but I met Alan
Gottlieb?
Gottlieb, thank you. There's a Gottlieb and a Gura, and I don't want to get them confused, but I'm horrible with names.
Yes.
Okay. So
it was Gottlieb.
So I met Mr. Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation because I heard from you, and I believe you heard from Sarah, that he wanted to speak to us.
Yeah, it turns out it was Andrew who wanted to speak with us, but, Andrew, Alan, whatevs,
And so I went down to the Second Amendment Foundation booth, and I waited for a bit, and I presented my card, and I said, I believe Mr. Gottlieb wants to speak to me. And he walked up, and he was very nice, and he didn't remember who I was or what he wanted to talk about. And so I mentioned what 10K for 2A was about, and his eyes started to light up, and it's like, yeah. Okay, I know what's going on now. And he said that his son, Andrew, had brought it to him, and he approved it. And then he, I guess, told Andrew to do something with you about it. So the very short version here is that I met Mr. Gottlieb, and that was fantastic. Shook his hand. Wonderful fellow. but also we are approved to use Second Amendment Foundation in the 10K for 2A. We can use their name and...
Well, there's a reason we're shouting out the Second Amendment Foundation is because a significant portion of the money that we raise is going to SAF.
Yeah, half of it.
Right.
And you wanted to have access to their donor list or otherwise just get the information about 10K for
really,
2A
all I
out.
wanted was for Andrew to put out, hey, on social media, this is a way that we're raising money, or this is the way our money is being raised from this group here. So he says he's going to do that. We got to get something to him. I got to send him an edited version of what we've already got, and that may end up on the Second Amendment Foundation's Facebook page. So let's kind of get closer to wrapping this up. It's been almost an hour. Weird. Can you gun geek just a little? Not so deep. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about them?
I want to talk
revolvers?
about you. I want to talk about you handling revolvers.
Yeah. See, I'm not a revolver guy. I don't like revolvers. I tried to learn how to shoot on my dad's. What is it? Colt. What's the really cool Colt revolver?
Python?
The Python. My dad has a 6-inch Colt Python. And it is apparently the gun.
They're very nice revolvers.
Right. Well, I couldn't hit this broadside of a barn if I was standing inside the barn with the stupid thing. But my dad had a Llama 380 that I could hit the paper every single time. And when I was a kid, that was all I needed to do. So, never liked revolvers. But I did get a chance, and I've been wanting to handle it for a while. I got to pick up the Korth Super Sport at the Nighthawk Custom Table, and that thing is a giant freaking brick with like rails on it.
Rails, all times.
Yeah, rails all day long. It's a competition gun, and I swear, it's like I don't need this gun, but you know what? I'm thinking about starting to shoot Bianchi Cup just to justify the $5,000 gun, because like it's just neat, and I don't. It's one of those things like you walk down the street and you suddenly decide I'm gonna have that really ridiculous car there because it's cool, and everybody else is like, what the hell are you talking about? There's no good reason for that, but it was neat. I got to see their regular revolver. I can't remember what they call that one. What struck me is that one of the big selling points for Korth, the neat thing that people were talking about, was they put out something called the Sky Marshal, which when Nighthawk started importing it and doing the marketing, I guess, I don't know what they're doing. They're partnering. They changed it to like the Nighthawk.
Skyhawk.
Well, it was really the Skyhawk.
Skyhawk.
It was the Sky Marshal, and it became the Skyhawk.
Yeah.
And it wasn't at the show. It's a 9mm with a short 9mm cylinder hideout revolver, unfortunately with an exposed hammer, which I think was a bad choice. But how many concealed carriers are there in Germany, in Korth? But it wasn't at the show. I thought that was really strange.
Yeah, that was a little strange.
But the Super Sport, wow. We did get into Cabot guns, and I went, I don't have enough money to walk past this booth, much less sit here and listen to the guy talk. And watching Weird Gun Geek, like about minor details of things that I'd have to open up the gun to actually see that, and I try not to do that if I can help it.
Yeah, I immediately recognized Robert. We've had him on Handgun Radio a few times, and he was very excited too because he knows that Handgun Radio is the place for super duper amount of gun geekery.
My goodness!
And he was showing the one-off guns. I'll keep it small. This one was a one-off custom engraved done in, I believe it was a Spanish Moor style, is what it is. So it looks like a lot of those like Barcelona architecture that you would see.
Was that the one that looked like they'd taken a whole bunch of rock and gold and smashed it together and it formed into a 1911 accidentally?
That's not
Very colorful description.
That's not how I describe it, but
well, it was heavily engraved, and it looked like they had seriously compressed gold-bearing asphalt. Really, it was very, very beautiful. It had a little the one that was a little rotating there. Yeah, it was beautiful, and it was bizarre.
Yeah.
And if you have to ask,
were those the guys that made the pair of 1911s out of meteorite?
Meteorite, yes.
Yes, that's them.
Yeah, they also made a 1911 with leaded crystal grips and a trigger.
Engraved. Had little stars in the trigger.
Their selling point is 3 stars, and so they'd found a crystal making expert and just went through all of that. And it's got a crystal display case that it comes with, and that was also a one-off. And I'm like, does that work? He goes, oh yeah, no, I've shot it. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But why though?
Because I can.
Reasons.
Because pretty. Let's face it. When you look at Cabot, it is because pretty. Like they have, like black, the dark blued gun that's jet black, and they polish it to such a mirror finish that you can't tell, is that black or is that chrome?
Yeah.
Because it's never about need, Adam. It's about want.
So, we are about at the end of our time. We have gotten the high sign. It's time to wrap up and get the hell out of our office. We are trying to leave. So, final thoughts, Adam.
I am so tired.
Weird.
I love the NRA show. I love seeing all you guys, and I like meeting the new members of the cast that I haven't met before. Haven't met Tiffany, haven't met Beth, and it was good. And we got to stay in the house all together. It was awesome.
Beth?
Oh, my favorite part's definitely having to see everyone together and have this energy. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, we're missing a couple of people. Baron, it's too bad you couldn't make it. Miguel. Are we missing anybody else? I can't count at this point in the show. Tiffany, what about you?
Same. I'll echo what Beth just said. It's good to be in the same room with everybody and put names to faces, which I had sort of done, but it's better. It's better this way, and I can actually look in your eyes.
So back me up, guys. Every time I talk to her, I'm telling her, how attractive and how exciting and energetic and interesting she is. Am I right here?
You're here.
Yes.
Oleg took her picture and not me.
Yeah, you compliment her more than you compliment me.
Yeah, but you don't need it.
I feel a little left out now too, Aaron. We'll compliment each other.
Oh, Beth, you're beautiful.
So are you.
Oh, thank you.
Beth, I'm sure you hear it so many times from so many different people that I don't want to be a crowd follower. I don't want to be that guy who says the same thing that every other person at the show says. Aaron, last thing.
And they're turning the lights out.
Great convention, horrible traffic. I had to invent new curse words to deal with the traffic. I can't speak them here, but I'll be happy to print them up for our listeners. Bye.
Well, that's our show for the week. Remember that the GunBlog VarietyCast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.
Show notes can be found at gunblogvarietycast.com / episode 142.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the GunBlog VarietyCast. Music courtesy of Rob Allen at blog.roballen.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play Music. This podcast is made possible by the Firearms Policy Coalition and by contributions from listeners like you. This is a URS production.